Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. Today we're going to be talking with another senator, one of my colleagues up at the Capitol, and we've got a couple of discussions. One will be on a bill that I had asked to have tabled. And sometimes you table a bill for multiple reasons. Either you want to kill it, or you want to amend it, or you just want to pause until you can think about it, see what the House is going to do on certain issues. And so I wanted to talk to my guest about that and about one of the other bills that we discussed basically last week. And it has to do with the insurance companies. And I have the actual author of that bill here. So with that, the studious, the wonderful Senator Dan Innis. I want to appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Traveling in the rain and all the traffic and all that stuff.
It's a beautiful New Hampshire winter day, right?
Yes, we love it. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting year.
It already has been.
A lot of bills that are coming up. I think Senator Bradley kind of chided us because we put in, I think, 18 more late bills.
Yeah, and a few of those are my fault.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I did 3, and of course, he asked me to do one.
Well, of course. Yeah. And then he gives you a little grief for it.
Yeah, but he did too as well. But so today and last week we talked a little bit about the insurance thing that a lot of people don't realize that part of the deductible thing. It was called the.
The shorthand for it is the insurance accumulator bill, but a brief description is this: imagine you have some serious illness, and you have a prescription treatment, maybe at a hospital, maybe at home. It's $10,000 a month. Normal insurance is going to pay about 80% of that, so they're going to cover $8,000 of that 10. That leaves $2,000 sitting out there for you. Well, the pharmaceutical companies, in many cases, will help with that difference. And they'll give you the $2,000 as a sort of coupon to apply to the payment. And for a while, insurance companies recognized that as a patient contribution and applied it to the deductible. Then they stopped doing that. They said, well, wait, that's not really your money, so we're not going to apply that to your deductible. So you get the prescription bill covered, but your deductible, you haven't applied anything to it. So you might still have a $5,000 deductible sitting out there, which doesn't make sense. It feels like the insurance companies are taking advantage of a situation and almost double dipping, with that payment and then still holding your deductible out there. So the doctor's visits, other prescriptions, and so on, those will apply to your deductible, but it's not being reduced by the contribution that you're getting to help pay for this expensive medicine.
Yeah, we had a robust discussion about that just the other day. The insurance companies are coming out and talking about the coupons. And one of the questions I did ask, though, if a private organization comes in and says, hey, listen, we want to help you with this. Maybe you're a veteran, maybe you're a senior, or whatever, for whatever reason.
Right.
And they apply it towards the deductible, the insurance company kind of grabs onto that, and you're still holding the bill.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've not seen evidence of that.
Yeah, okay.
So if let's say you were ill and I started a GoFundMe page to help Senator Avart.
Right.
I don't think the insurance company is going to say, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't apply to your deductible. I don't think that the insurance companies are that rude. I think this is a case where the insurance companies are looking at it saying, well, it's not their money, so it shouldn't apply. But the patients and the pharmaceutical companies think the other way.
Right.
And, these are big, expensive things. We're not talking about, a prescription for tetracycline and a $5 copay, right? We're talking about chemotherapy or some long-range biologic. My sister has rheumatoid arthritis. She gets infusions every month. It's that sort of thing.
Hemophiliac.
Hemophilia is a big one for something like this. These continuous treatment things that are very high cost. And, if the pharmaceutical company or whomever can help the patient cover that cost, great. But that should apply to the patient's deductible too. It is a contribution from the patient, even though it's coming initially from the pharmaceutical company. It's still the patient that's contributing that toward the total cost, as far as the insurance company is concerned. And the insurance company shouldn't care. They're getting what they need out of this, and there's no harm to them in setting it up this way.
Yeah, you did a good job in describing it, and in committee. However, you weren't there.
Right.
You wrote a professor type of paper. And,
I'm good at that.
Just so you know, Senator Innis is a professor at UNH,
Yes.
or administration and or whatever.
Business administration,
Business
yes.
admin.
Yeah, marketing is my discipline.
And Senator Senator Prentice actually carried out the bill, and she was complimenting you as she was reading the bill.
She's great. Yeah.
She did a good job with it. Yeah. So, we're going to be probably execing that in the next week or so. But there was an amendment that was floating around.
There was, and it goes a little too far. Okay. The idea behind the amendment was that there might be alternative treatments that are lower cost. But it's the same thing we often get into with the insurance companies. You know, if you've got a complex illness and you've got a treatment that works, you don't want to move off that. And you know, you've started down that path, you've been getting the contribution, and then they say, well, there's this new biosimilar, let's say. We're going to move you over to that because it costs a little less. Well, you don't want to go there.
Right.
And that's part of what the amendment had in it. What the amendment did have that I can agree with is if there is a generic alternative, then that could or should be the path for the patient. And if it's proved to be as effective as the original, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, and I was talking to Senator Bradley about that. That's one of his things. But in a lot of these cases, though, there aren't generics.
That's right, there aren't.
Because it's really highly specific in engineering these particular type of medicines or drugs or whatever.
And then there was another thing in the amendment about a therapeutic equivalent. And the question I had for one of the representatives of the insurance companies was, well, okay, Tylenol and Advil both are painkillers. So are those therapeutic equivalents? They have very different actions.
Yes, they do.
Acetaminophen versus ibuprofen, which is sort of a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, I think. And Tylenol doesn't work for me. If I have a headache, doesn't touch it. Advil always does. So I can see a case where, you know, therapeutic equivalent might not be for certain patients. I don't really want that in there either.
Right.
So
but if you're
I'm
in
fine
the
with the
hospital
generic.
and you're on an OxyContin or something like that, you need the Tylenol versus the ibuprofen.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, there are certain cases where absolutely, but just to give a simple example, you know, that people can identify with.
Well, we appreciate you bringing it on. I know that we're going to be discussing it in the future, but just so that my guests would understand, you're the author. And
it's a great bill, and a lot of states have done it. It works well. The insurance companies, they work with it, and no harm, no foul. Yeah,
and we have one that's a sister bill that kind of goes along with the PBMs in my bill in 555. And we've done a little bit of compromise. Instead of 100%, we're going to go with 50%, and hopefully we can get it passed. Hopefully.
It's about compromise, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of that going on these days.
Yeah, there is, and that's okay. I think a lot of times you get a better bill when you listen to other voices, and a lot of times, I think people don't know this. Lobbyists bring us thoughts and ideas, things we hadn't thought about. Testimony in front of committees is huge.
It's really how you tease out all the facts. And it's important that we do that. In New Hampshire, a lobbyist, to me, isn't as bad as a lobbyist, if you will, in D.C.
No.
A lot of these people have to do their research, and then they have to sit in front of you, and they have to convince you and show you the evidence. And they'll show you line by line the problem or how it conflicts with existing laws or how it could have a ripple effect. Bottom line, though, when we're doing these type of bills, it's the customer, it's your clientele, your constituents. They're the people that matter. If we can,
and that's why we're there.
If we can help them save some money, streamline the processes, make sure that it's working more efficiently. Really, that's what we want to do. I wanted you to come and talk a little bit about this bill that we tabled.
Oh, my favorite.
Yeah.
343.
343, yeah.
Yes. The bane of my existence.
No, it isn't. No, it's...
it's been a good one.
Sometimes you get these bills in it and you go, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was going on.
Yeah.
So you got some nice co-sponsors on here, Senator Gray, Senator Carson, Senator Murphy. Relative to school-based health services. And the analysis basically says that this bill allows school districts to contract with healthcare provider, a healthcare system, or a community partner to establish school-based health center for the purpose of providing services to students beyond the scope of school nursings. And when I saw this originally,
The synopsis is bad.
I thought,
Yeah.
I don't want to grow government.
Exactly.
And that was my immediately knee jerk. And then, of course, I had a little conversation with you after we tabled it.
Yeah.
And I brought along the, what do you call it? The
testimony.
Yeah, it basically.
Well, let me sort of jump into this if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I want you to.
So the analysis, I got to be honest, I didn't read it.
the analysis.
I just go right to the text of the bill. I should have read it because it's really not a good representation of what we're trying to do.
And that happens a lot.
Yes, it does. And a lot of people read this, and then you have a context when you read the bill that maybe isn't correct. And I think that's part of what happened here. So the government, the federal government, has a program to assist schools in setting up basically health clinics within the schools. And the federal government will fund it for 3 years. Maybe more, but right now it's for 3 years. And they're marketing this to the schools, not to the states, directly to the schools.
You're bypassing the state.
Right. We have 4 schools now in New Hampshire who either have them or are getting them. I think there's one in Newport, a couple in Manchester.
Does Nashua have one?
I don't know. I think maybe, but I'm not sure. You should check on that.
Yep.
But here's the thing. There's a doctor and a nurse. They see students just as they would if they were a general practitioner. They are embedded in the schools. So what this bill said was, look, we know schools are going to do this. The federal government's paying for it. And we want to be sure that we put some guardrails around it and we protect parents and students. So there were a couple of things that we wanted to try to do with this bill. The first was to define what they are and what they are not. So keep in mind, we're not creating them. We're not saying this is what they should look like. This is what they look like coming from the feds, and we're going with that definition. We also said you can't fire your existing school nurse if you start one of these. That person stays. And then the bill further prescribes that parents have to opt in for their child, not out, and they have to be present when the child is examined, just as you would at a normal doctor. Now, some of the opponents are saying, well, you should just ban them. Well, I'm not sure that makes sense. There are kids in schools, maybe the parents are involved in drugs, or maybe the parents are just kind of absent, not the best parents, or maybe they're just poor and they can't afford to go to the doctor even with a modest copay. So they go to the ER all the time. I'm not going to tell those parents and those children, you don't deserve this, we're going to ban it. It would be like saying no free school lunch. No one thinks that's a good idea, and I don't think it's a good idea to deny children health care. But I do think that the parents must be fully involved, fully informed, 100%. And that's what this bill was designed to do. Not to create these. It's a recognition they're probably coming. But the purpose of the bill was to give parents the ability to say, no, we have a doctor, and I'll take my kid there. Or to say, yeah, I'm fine with this.
One of the fears of this whole, parental consent thing, I've watched it happen.
Yeah.
With one legislature, it's parental consent.
Yeah.
The next one, they
It's
take
off.
that away.
Yeah.
That's one issue. But
I get that.
when the federal government comes in and hands you candy,
Right.
there's some
There's always something that goes with it.
There's
Yeah.
a chain link hook to that, and that's one of my concerns. Maybe I'm getting a little bit of cynical, but time has proven me right on this. So I worry about that, and the fact that they bypass the state and go directly to the school. So
It's a
yes,
problem.
We'll take the money, or if a town takes money, you're on the hook.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna buy you a fire engine. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be shiny.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost the federal government $300,000 for that.
There are a lot of strings with it.
Right.
Yeah.
But when that thing goes out, now you're gonna have to buy your own now.
Right.
And with these particular type of specs.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to something like this, we want to make sure that there's a certain degree of local control.
Yep.
Definitely parental control.
Absolutely.
And consent. And I don't know how you protect that, because I can tell you with every legislature,
there can be an effort to turn that back. I appreciate that, but I don't see any legislature saying, parents, you have this right now, we're going to take it away. We're not really in that business.
well, with the child surveys, they did that.
Yeah.
And we actually did a study on it, and they were lining kids up in the classroom saying, okay, so if your parents have this, or you have a gun in the house, or if you blah blah blah, step forward, step backwards, and they were taking these surveys, and they were using them for whatever nebulous person. I have no idea. So we said, well, no, you need to ask the parents' permission before you do these type of surveys. That's all we said.
I remember that.
And it got switched around the following year. I'm scratching my head thinking, okay, that was a lot of wasted effort.
Yeah.
But, and then, of course, the House did vote against parental consent or parental rights and stuff like that.
And so we've got a similar bill up again this year, which might take care of this if we can get that bill through. If that bill doesn't get through, the parental rights bill, then I think we got to bring this one back. And maybe we adapt it a little bit. One of the concerns I've heard you and I talked about before the show started is what happens after year 3? Who's going to pay for the ongoing costs of this? Are you just going to shut it down? Or, will the school pay for it? Well, if the school wants to pay for it, okay. But I've heard it suggested that if that's the case, the school and the town should have to bring a warrant article to the town meeting to approve the funding. I think that makes sense.
But once the federal government gave you that money, can you do that?
I don't see why you couldn't.
When they said, well, you have to do it.
When they stop with the money, I think you can absolutely do
that. And
that.
if you do not go forward with the warrant article, then, well, you need to pay the money back.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the federal law says on this. If it says pay it back or not. I can't tell you.
I'm getting a jaundiced view of our federal
You really are.
Well, I mean,
I understand why.
I'm looking at the border and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on?
They don't want you looking there.
Yeah, it's kind of an invasion type of thing going on.
Yeah, it really is.
It's not
even my Democrat family members are starting to see it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm glad because
even in Massillon, they're talking about all they're calling them immigrants, but I'm calling them invaders at this point.
They are invaders.
And they're at the airports.
Yes. They're sleeping in the airports. They're sleeping in police stations. I have a friend in Chicago. It's a complete disaster. He texts me almost every day, just beside himself with what's happening to his city.
And they didn't walk to Chicago. No. They didn't walk to New York. No. They didn't walk to...
No.
One of my representative friends, I'll leave him nameless, he was coming from Arizona. He and his wife up from a conference.
Yeah.
Got on the plane, heading to Boston. Plane leaves the gate. Taxis over, or is taxied over to a warehouse. 75 people get on the plane.
You're kidding me.
Suitcases, and with cell phones, and with $2,500 in their pocket. I said,
yeah, the money part, right?
Well,
I could use that.
How do you know they had $2,500 in their pocket? How do you know that? Well, the flight attendant said that's exactly what they do on a weekly basis. So somebody's paying for them to have the luggage, the cell phone, and the $2,500 to fly them to Logan.
Yeah.
To anywhere around the country.
And then you get a free hotel, free food, free school. Pretty good deal.
But if you're
why wouldn't you come here?
If you're a governor from Florida or from Texas and you do that,
you're Satan.
And you're going to get sued by so my jaundiced view.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And it's getting to the point where the people are going to have to pay for this.
Good will prevail. Right will prevail. It might take time.
Yeah.
But, I think Americans are waking up to what's happening, and we recognize that, immigration is a good thing.
We all agree with that.
Yeah, we're all immigrants, really. Most of us, 98% of us probably. And we support that. And I think there's a desire for immigration to be easier. I think it's too difficult, and that's part of what drives this behavior. But I also wonder, Senator, if there are more sinister forces at work.
I think so.
Trying to destabilize the country.
Well,
and you start with the cities.
You got Fast and Furious.
Yep.
People remember that.
Yeah.
And you had an Iranian ship that parked for the very first time in history in Brazil.
Yeah.
Never has that happened before.
Yeah.
They're not exactly our friends.
No, I don't think so.
No. But, I got my license renewed the other day, and I went to...
They let you have it again.
Yeah, they did. They cut the old one up, though.
I bet they did.
Got me worried, because I still got to vote, Hey, what's wrong with this crease? But anyway, the young lady that was behind the counter, she's doing a fantastic job. I mean, just for her age group, being that very conversational, the eye contact, just everything, it was just... Wow, what a good... I kept saying, you're doing a really good job. You're doing a good job. And I said, so you're in college? And she says, yeah, I am. I'm studying to be, I think, an attorney. She wants to go into criminal justice.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. I'm here on a green card.
Really?
Hold the presses.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'll be your sponsor.
Isn't that great? Are you doing that?
Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Oh, that's
I've done that for a number of people. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But if you're coming over and in mobs of 10,000
And taking advantage.
you're getting the free money. You're kind of blending in.
Yep.
There's these organizations that want the open borders. Got issues.
I've had a lot of folks work for me over the years in businesses I've owned or at university or elsewhere, and many of them are immigrants. Phenomenal people.
Mm-hmm.
Love having them here. They add a texture to the country and to society that I think is valuable. I've learned a lot from them. They often come in with tremendous family values and closeness and tight-knit communities.
And their culture. It's
yes,
cool. It's just,
and I respect that, admire that, and we want that.
Yeah.
What we don't want is people we don't know coming in. You'd invite your neighbor to stay in your house overnight if they needed to.
Sure.
But would you invite some random person from downtown Chicago? No. And that's essentially what we're doing.
Yeah, it is. I just up the street, actually, I had her on my show a few years back. Olga from Romania.
Yeah.
Her husband, Teddy, a firefighter. She's been here for at least a decade or a couple of decades. She's here on a green card.
Yeah.
So I'll sponsor her as well.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with that. But this massive, 8 million, 10 million.
I don't know the number.
Something's wrong.
Very wrong. I mean, you think about it. This state has 1.3 million people, give or take. And how many have come across the border? How many New Hampshires have come across the border in 3 years? Right? We're talking 3 or 4 New Hampshires have come across the border.
At least.
The city of Columbus, where I was born, is 2 million people in the metro area, right? We've had 4 cities of Columbus come in. It's a big city.
And there's a cost effective.
There's a very big cost.
I did interview another gentleman. His name is Mike Warner. He former military, special ops and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They've done a lot of surveying down the border, the southern border, but our northern border.
Yes.
And you know how they have the celebration of all the police officers in the springtime?
Yeah.
Well, I talked with Homeland Security this past spring. They said, yeah, there's been at least, just in the last 3 months, more than in the last 3 years, of people crossing our northern border.
Yeah.
And I said,
that.
so who's coming? He says, well, there's a lot of drug dealers. There's people that just want to become citizens. But the thing that's concerning us the most is the weapons.
Oh, they're bringing weapons?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, and I thought, okay, well, this is New Hampshire.
Yeah.
A lot of us are packing.
Right.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what kind of weapons?
Right.
What's going on? And these are the guys that do like 200-mile stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a concern.
It's a little unnerving, and I do think in New Hampshire we're in a pretty good spot, but eventually it's going to come to our doorstep too, and we've got to turn the spigot off.
Yeah.
We have to control the border, understand who's coming in, and honestly, I think there should be legislation to make it easier to become a citizen. It can take years and cost thousands of dollars. That's probably not it. But you look at other countries around the world. If you or I tried to go to Canada, forget it. You're not getting in.
No.
Right? But America, come on in. And
especially if you've had a DWI.
I have a story. There is a fellow who worked with a store in Bradford, New Hampshire, Sweet Beet Market. He's worked with them on composting. He's an expert. He's a French citizen, was living in Canada. Many times he came down to the United States to go to the store to help them and to visit his cousin Pierre, who lives in Bradford, where I'm from now. And he came to the border a few years ago, and they said, you can't come in. And he said, well, why not? I got my visa, I'm ready, I got everything I need. Well, we're not sure you'll go back to Canada. We don't know that there's anything to keep you there. And he says, well, I may not, but I will certainly go back to France where I own land and my parents live. I'm not interested in staying in the country. And they said, you can't come in. So a few months ago, folks reached out to me and said, can you help? Well, being a state senator, probably not, but I might be able to make some contacts. So
that's what we do.
So I reached out to our congressional representative's office. We got nowhere, absolutely nowhere. So at the end of it all, when I had to call Pierre and say, Pierre, I'm so sorry, but we can't get this done because of the border issues. We got this whole long letter explaining it all. It was garbage. This is a good man who should have been allowed in to help them further refine their composting. I said, let's just fly him to Mexico. We'll walk him across the border. He'll get a loaded Visa card and a free plane ride up to see you, right? I mean, that's where we are. People who want to come in legally to do good things are denied repeatedly. Right. And then the people who want to come in and do us harm, and I'm sure some of these do,
they have to.
Come on in.
Yeah.
Come on in.
It's crazy.
That doesn't make any sense.
Hey, I only got a minute left.
Yeah, minute 48.
That went quick. Really appreciate you coming on the show. So, what are some of the things that some final thoughts with with this bill or what's coming up this year? Something close to your heart.
I think close to my heart is making it easier for small farmers to get to market, and that's something that's really difficult. We talk about farm to table. We talk about creating a situation where you can buy local products in your local store. But because of the inspection rules and many of the other constraints that big farms can get around because they're big,
right.
Our small farms have trouble getting to market. So I've got a bill on meat processing. It's a late file. I think it's going to be really good.
That coming to my committee?
It may. I hope it does.
Yeah.
And it would allow us to do local processing and sell within the state. And you could do one animal at a time from your small farm, package it up, and sell it locally. And we do that with raw milk. Yep. It's the same basic model.
How do people get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you about
this? I'm just
bill?
daninnis@gmail.com, DANINNIS@gmail.com. I talked to the head of Farm Bureau today. She's fully on board. She'll come testify. I think we're going to try to get this through. And I think we can. It's going to be a good thing.
My committee's an easy committee. So, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know it's a little bit of a drive, but
it's well worth it.
And listen, if you want to come on the show, by all means, come on the show. We'd love to talk to you, whether you're a senator or whether you're a janitor. It doesn't matter. I'm both. So you can.
And you're good at both.
Yeah, I'm good at both. And I have a band too. So until next week, thanks for watching Speaking with the Senator.